Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for being here in the second afternoon session. Very excited to have everyone here. Let's just share the screen. First of all, to introduce myself, my name is Robert Kirchner. I work for the Government of Sub-Saharan Africa for the GIZ part, but we're supporting the initiative with our partners as a whole. Today, our afternoon session basically focuses very much on public lighting. Very much looking forward to that. So we posted the interesting question, how to make public lighting projects bankable for bright public spaces. And let me actually start by giving you some more administrative advices. You're just using the platform, and just to make sure that everybody is able to understand the session, just make sure that you have on the right of your screen, you will have a certain control box where you can first of all select the right language, so either English, French, or Portuguese, so that you have your the right translation. You're also in the box, you can learn a bit about the session as well as the speakers. You also have a Q&A item where you can ask questions and receive answers. Yeah, please challenge us. I think this is a good time. If you have very specific questions on public lighting, post those questions. We have the experts here to answer your questions. So it's a real chance. We also having a poll that where you have the chance to give us a bit of feedback. We asked 2 questions. The first one is, what do you think is the biggest challenge to develop and implement public lighting projects? Give you some answer possibilities. So let us know what you think. And the other one is, what topics are you most interested in understanding for the development of public lighting projects? So I think that's also for you a chance to a bit steer the discussions we will have later on. You have plenty of time to answer these questions. So we will just show the results of the poll after the presentation of the presenters. You will also see a list of relevant resources from the Government of Sub-Saharan Africa. And if there's any technical assistance you need, you can also request this from the help desk. And if the help desk is unable to, or if you're unable to request the support, you can also just write an email. Here you see the email address. We'll take care of you, so to say. This just to let you know as well that this session will be recorded and will be made available at the LoCS4Africa website. As a resource, if there are certain things you might be interested later on in understanding once again. And last thing, obviously, we encourage the participation during the session through the Q&A, also through the polls that we are having. Let's make this an interactive session about a very interesting topic. I think that's basically where I would start, just to give a bit of an introduction in how this fits in the Government of Sub-Saharan Africa Day. The initiative as such, the way it's presented as it's a bottom-up initiative by local administrations, where once mayors have signed up, are asked to develop a climate action plan. And part of this climate action plan at the end of the day are really the specific actions. And these actions mean oftentimes infrastructure projects that need to be developed and implemented, because at the end of the day, on the macro level, we talk about climate adaptation, we talk about climate mitigation, we talk about energy access, but on the macro level, you would look at this and say these are all the individual projects that a local administration, a city wants to develop and is developing and implementing, that are actually helping to achieve energy access, helping to mitigate climate change. So for us, one of the big focuses as a support to the Government of Mayors, together with our partners, is indeed to help bring technical support to to projects, that they are able to receive finance, that they are able to be on a level where they have a good quality to receive finance. Indeed, what we've actually also been done partly is to send questionnaires to local administration to see kind of like what would be your priority projects, and that's why we're having this session. Public lighting has been one of the main demands, and I think it makes sense from 2 perspectives. On the one hand, public lighting is very much in the mandate of cities and local administration. So it's one of the areas where basically the cities is asked to deliver, so to say. And on the other hand, we also see that this is a development priority, specifically with regards safety concerns. What we're trying to cover here in terms of saying public lighting is two types of projects, which can also be mixed. On the one hand, the energy efficiency of existing systems, and then on the other hand, but also the expansion of systems, because I think what we're seeing in Sub-Saharan Africa is that indeed there is a demand for both intervention, and sometimes it makes also sense just to see and how to mix them. So that's why we wanted to define the right scope. So that's why we're offering here some feedback on energy efficiency as well as extension. What we see as a Government of Mayors is also the capacity gaps that we see with cities, local administration are trying to develop projects. I think what I personally, my experience working with some cities in Cameroon is that I think it starts very early on for these kind of projects to just also to have the right scope and look at the right alternatives, because even in a public lighting project there are numerous ways how you can address public lighting, be this to on-grid lighting, to off-grid lighting. There are different kinds of solar technologies that are available here, and kind of like to also see how to combine it, which options are there for energy efficiency, but also to see kind of like how would a project be set up. And I think that's kind of like where we try to also bring in our expertise, and that's why we have this wonderful session whose aim is really to present you the scope of the different options available, but also to help you understand a bit the relevant success factors of these kind of projects. You know, what does it mean to have a good quality project? I've made my introduction already, just to basically introduce you to the session. Is that we hopefully have 3 speakers. On the one hand, we would what we would like to have also as a Government of Mayors is a city example, so that we understand a bit kind of like from which perspectives are cities coming when they develop these projects, what are also some of the challenges that cities have. And we have also a speaker from the AFD, Olga Kukui, who is able to bring in the financier perspective at this kind of projects, to see what on the one hand is the offering from the AFD with regards to their portfolio, or what's the kind of research they are doing on public lighting, but also to see kind of like what are for them success factors of such projects. And finally, the last speaker we would have is Marcello Antinucci, who is also cooperating with us for the technical support to projects, and he's very much an expert on public lighting, who is able to give you a bit of an overview of the technical side of these projects, of the different technologies, but also looking at the kind of options that one would have on the economic models, or also on the financing models, to give you a good overview. Before then, after that, we will look at the polls, just to look a bit at the results, see also what questions there are, and hopefully have an interesting discussion that hopefully you go out of the session and you have the impression that you understand the different options, you understand the complexity of this project, but you also understand kind of like where you have to make decisions, or which are the factors where one really needs to kind of like make a good analysis to be sure to be able to present. I think with this, I'm more or less done with the introduction. I would just basically see quickly now whether we are having our speaker from the city. That's not the case. Then I would stop sharing, and I would invite Olga Kukui from the AFD. She is the task team leader for urban development at the AFD. She has been a program manager with 12 years of experience in urban development and development finance. Also with plenty of experience in urban projects focusing on affordable housing, urban regeneration and integrated waste management systems. to start as a first speaker to present a bit the portfolio of the AFD and the financiers perspective at this kind of projects. Olga, I would just stop my video, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Does it work? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Robert. I just want to check whether I can be heard well or not before sharing the presentation. Great. So thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this a presentation from a development finance institution point of view. Initially, Kampala City Administration was to deliver the presentation of the Kampala lighting project first, so that you have all of the details of the project and the point of view, of course, of the city. Unfortunately, I guess our speaker from Kampala City Administration is having trouble joining the conference. Maybe he will be able to do so later. I'm told that Edison is in the room now. Maybe it would be much better to have Edison's presentation first, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So I jump in again. We have a wonderful. So you know, these kind of things sometimes happen in the session, but we're very happy to have Edison here now from the Kampala Capital City Authority. Edison, I see that you're muted and your video is not on. Can you just try to see whether you're able to unmute yourself and start your video?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm just still trying to connect with my laptop. I'm not succeeding. So I joined in on phone, but I need to have my presentation up. That's the difficulty I'm having. Otherwise, I'm in the room via my phone.
No problem. How about this? So we will start with another presenter. I would give you another 15 minutes to see whether you're able to figure it out with the laptop. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, then I will show the presentation while you basically introduce it. Edison, should we do it like this?
Yes, if it doesn't work, then if you have the presentation, you can show the slides from your side, and then we can go through them from my side.
Okay.
If sharing my screen doesn't work.
All right. So I will just start with another speaker now. So I will give you another 15 minutes just to see whether you can set it up or not, and if not, then I will share the screen. So. Improvising here a bit, Marcello, maybe I would ask you then to start with your presentation, because the other two presentations are a bit in line with the Kampala street lighting project. Marcello, just to give you an introduction of his presentation, will give you a bit of an introduction into the technical options for these projects, as well as some of the economic or finance options for these projects. And we're working with GOPA Intact on project support. And Marcello is a senior international expert at GOPA International Energy Consultants. He has over 20 years of international experiences in urban development, energy efficiency, and renewable energies. He's a senior expert who has also prepared technical terms of reference for a street lighting project for the Lusaka City Council just very recently. So we're very much looking forward to have an international expert here who has advised many of the public lighting projects to give us a bit of an introduction into this kind of project. Marcello, I just stopped my video and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let me share the screen. Is it there.
Marcello, is it working with sharing the screen?
Something strange. Let's see. Screen sharing. Oops. What's happening? Let's try again.
We were able to see it. You just need to go on the presentation.
Yeah. I'm trying to share the screen.
Yeah, it's working. It's working.
It's working. Now I put it in presentation. Is it coming?
It's working. Perfect.
Oh, okay. So I'll start showing some pictures where you can see the type of technologies moving from the the more traditional ones. This is the yellow light of the sodium high pressure discharge lamps that are very common in all our countries. Another alternative that you may find is with the compact fluorescent light, the CFL, similar to the ones we have in our homes since 10 years or so. The attack is different, it's bayonet attack instead of a screw. But the new technology that is coming out is the light emitting diode, LED. You see that the light is white and no more yellow like before. And if you look at the lamp, you see that there are many small beads. Each one is a LED unit emitting light covered by a lens. Why a lens is to enlarge the beam to match the road with dimension. And this is not the only solution. You can, instead of this, have some yellow squares that are called chip on board, which is a technology for higher power. And then the solar LED lights, where the same lamp as the previous one is combined with the PV photovoltaic module and the battery. So the module can charge the battery during the day, and during the night, the battery gives electricity to the lamp. The last picture shows the latest development where these three components are actually combined in a single unit. Technically, it is called all-in-one. And there is some advantage because you simplify the installation, of course, and even you avoid this battery visible outside. That, as we will see, is one of the temptation for thieves, for the risk of theft. Now, I need to introduce some concepts to make you familiar. A key measurement is the efficacy. This is a ratio of how much light is emitted respect to the electric power that is consumed. And the unit of measure is lumens per watt. Lumens is a measurement of the lighting intensity. And then we have another technical term, which is ballast. This is a control that is in all the fluorescent or discharge lamps, who needs a high tension and a high voltage to create the discharge inside the lamp. So essentially it's a transformer. And we must keep in mind that this device consumes some power. So we have to consider the efficiency of this when we want to know how much electricity is consumed. Another important parameter is the color rendering index, CRI. This measures the ability of the light to render accurately the color of an object. If you have a 100 CRI, means that your lamp is like the sunshine. So the colors are the same as we are used to see them under the sunshine light. If it is less, means that the colors are not accurately rendered. For example, for the sodium lamps, this is relatively low because all the objects are yellow. And then what is inside a light unit? There is not only the lamp, but there is a reflector. If the lamp emits in all directions, you need a mirror to reflect the backside of the lamp to the road. In case of LED, which are very focused, you don't need a reflector because they emit only in one direction. But sometimes, as I explained, there is a little lens, so a refractor, to enlarge the beam. Then there is an housing containing all these parts. Now we try to compare actually the quality of the different lamps. So one item to compare, which is very important, is the lifetime. And as you can see, we move from 1,000 to 50,000. So there is an enormous difference in lifetime. 1,000 or so is the traditional old incandescent lamps that, as you remember, tend to burn very quickly. Then we have another type of lamp called metal halide, which is a much better duration. If we move the sodium, the yellow lamps, it's even better. The CFL are more or less the same duration. But what is surprising, that LED have a much longer lifetime. And this is very important. Why? Not only because you save in changing the lamps, but also because you reduce for the street light all the maintenance intervention, which are always expensive because you need a special lorry to go up and reach the lamp. If we compare the lumens per watt, we also have big differences, and so the less efficient is the incandescent lamp, and then we have a much bigger quality in the other lamps. And for LED, they are now evolving in technology, so the range is quite different, but they are actually the most effective in terms of efficacy. The CRI, the color you see, is low for incandescent, for sodium, and much higher and quite good for LED. The difference between a solar lamp and a standard grid-connected lamp. This is a question for several administrations. Of course, if you have to expand in an area where there was no light, your solution usually is solar, because you save in the cost of extending the electric grid. But there are other aspects. So LED solar are lowest in operational cost. There is no electricity consumption, but also for maintenance. There are no control boxes, etc. And so it's good for greenhouse gas emission savings. The grid connected are have a less saving of electricity, of course, but with LED you can have a lower consumption. The disadvantages for LED solar that they are more expensive, and batteries have not the same duration of the modules. So during the lifetime of the lamp, there will be need for some replacing batteries. Dust and moisture, depending on the local climate, can be a disadvantage, and the risk of theft, not only for the battery, as I told you already, but also for the PV module, which is starts to be very attractive. For grid connection, there is the key issue that requires a connection to an electrical grid. So this is why a solar is more used for isolated areas. And the cost of LED grid connected is a little bit higher than the sodium lamps, but the consumption is less. Now, which are the benefits of these projects? Security. Security is both for residents and traders, that because mostly in African countries, when you have no street light, the rate of criminality and rapes tends to be higher. There is a safer roads, security for traffic. The better visibility reduces the risk of accidents. There is a saving, as we have seen, and what I will try to explain is that in the Sub-Saharan countries, we are trying to identify ways for generate revenues. Why? Because for the municipalities, there is the possibility of obtaining some revenues from advertising that is hung to the poles of the lamps, or even extending the trading hours, and so having some revenues from the street vendors. Which are the challenges for the local administration? First is for budget. There are limits in the funding, while for street lighting you need investments for extending new and for renovation. A problem is administrative, that it would be very good to reallocate the cost of electricity in paying the upfront cost of the investment. But in the budget lines of the balances, investment and running expenditure have two separated parts, and so the administrative officer tended not to see how to evidence this connection. Another problem, big problem in Sub-Saharan Africa is having some budget for operation and maintenance, because there are no tariffs or charges that can help recovering. And then the technical solutions are different. So for each solution, you have to find a fit for purpose solution. And also consider the local conditions in isolated areas. You have to know which is the risk of theft or vandalism and how to replace the batteries. For those interested, this is the reference of a relatively simple tool for designing at the municipality level a new district street lighting initiative. These are, I will read you the titles. The main consideration to take in consideration, to put attention at, if there is or not the grid, but look that in many capital cities, even where the grid is available, the municipality have decided to replace with solar lamps. Why? To reduce the maintenance actually and cut the cost of electricity, which is a burden for the municipality. The climatic condition, level of dust, irradiation, etc. The capacity for developing the project, you normally need a consultant, but also local skills, even for operational maintenance. Adaptability and future proofing. This means that what you are doing today with a long lifetime will remain for a long time. So this means thinking to an updated technology, but considering also if the prices are already mature, and also if there will be changes in the electric grid. Today there is no, but it could arrive later. Road condition and use, not on, of course, how large is the lane is important, the road, but consider also the use for an unpaved road in Africa. There is less car traffic, but a lot of pedestrians. So it has to be considered in isolated areas. There is no light at all. So the position of a street unit, street post has to consider strategic sites like schools, crossroads, etc. The energy cost, clearly, security for theft and vandalism, and consider the regulations. Presently in Cameroon, there are no regulations, but there are international technical standards. So it's important for the administration to take care of the regulations. The example here is for the renovation in Cape Town. The steps are calculating the energy saving. For example, comparing LED with sodium lamps, making a calculation of how to transform the saving in a budget, which is the saving, and then the investment, and have the payback period. So this is very roughly the process.
Shall I give you some more?
Yeah, I've got the last two slides. This is something that came from a project we had with GIZ. This shows the different models of funding and commercial models that go from the public makes all, the investment and the maintenance. Here makes the investment, but then uses a private company for maintenance. Is co-funded, where I don't enter in detail, but it's a company that makes the investments and receives a regular payment, which is normally less than the savings. And or a PPP, public-private partnership, meaning creating a company that can be a completely private company or a mixed company with the participation of local government. So this is from all the risk to the public to all the risk to the private in this case. Now, all these options are compared in terms of how the risk is allocated, who is putting the capital expenditure, who will ask for grants, and who will take care of the operation and maintenance. So this is a tool which has been developed where, analyzing your project, you can see where you are in this scale, and so which is the model more suitable. The last one is what we are doing now. Next week, my colleagues will be in a city in Cameroon, and being the need of expanding the street light in isolated areas, the problem of generating revenues was afforded. There is not only advertisement I mentioned, but you can have fees from market stand holder that will benefit of a longer period of time during the day for selling. We can have kiosks for recharging phones or on home batteries. You can have internet connected PC to be rented to students, a multimedia post, or even the distribution of Wi-Fi services. We are investigating these opportunities, which depends on the local needs and local conditions, but looks to be very interesting because for the first installation of lamps that have been applied in this area, this was extremely successful. Having even a single spotlight in an area where no electricity is available, and so no public lighting, no private lighting, the single street lighting becomes a source for the social and economic life to restart. Okay, that's at the end of my presentation.
Perfect, Marcello, thank you very much. I think that was very interesting because on the one hand, you really go from you have a certain technology that has comes with certain characteristics, certain benefits, but and I think you showed very nicely that there is no clear, this is the one solution. There it's always a weighing of advantages and disadvantages and really seeing what fits to the very context that a city is confronted with, where you really need to kind of like evaluate different options, and that not only from the technical level, but also from a finance level, where you also have to see what are you able to do, what kind of a finance model. And I think that is for me also a nice way to now go to Edison, because he will now present to you a very concrete project where exactly this kind of weighing of options has happened, where one made decisions. Are we going here with solar lamps? Are we going with grid connected lamps? So I think it's very interesting now to hear his example. I will just introduce Edison quickly. He's the manager in business development and research department. He has a career of 18 years of experience in public sector. One of the most interesting things I found that he, for the Kampala Capital City Authority, he led several initiatives which have won regional and international sustainable development. So I think that's somebody that pushed the boundaries, so to say. So Edison, I'm very happy that you're here to present us the public lighting project. So I would ask you now to just start your video and share the screen with your presentation, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Robert. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can hear.
Yeah, I think just go into presentation mode. We see everything, so you're good to go.
Yes, thank you so much. It's quite a long presentation, but I'll try to pick the key issues, highlight the key issues so that we can still catch up with on time. Yeah, just like you said, we started to prepare our public lighting master plan about 2 or so years ago. And so the presentation I'm going to make is broken into 2 parts. The first part is a bit of what we have in the master plan. And then from the master plan, we prioritized some areas in the city for the first intervention to form the current project that we are structuring. So that's how my presentation will be will flow. But just a quick one is that for any project, we require that it's aligned to our national priorities in our national development plan, and also that it is aligned to the city strategic plan. We are just now entering this another phase of strategic planning, which is 2020 to 2025. So this project has carried over from the previous strategic plan to the current strategic plan. Maybe just to put in the context and give a picture of what it is like in terms of the current street lighting coverage in Kampala. We are just at about 8% of the lighting needs, and mainly the lighting is deployed along some linear roads. But even with the lighting that currently exists, most of the time, on average, only about 50% is working on average. We still do have old technology, sodium and mercury vapor lamps, which we still have on our old network. The other issues, of course, with the city are the crime rates, which are quite high, particularly in informal settlements and poor elite neighborhoods. We also have a big challenge with the vandalism of the lighting installation, as you may have experienced in other places, and like the previous presenter has noted, this is a very big challenge, mainly for the solar lighting installations, but also for the grid-connected installations. Sometimes the vandalism of the cabling network and all those kind of things. So that's also a big challenge. Kampala is fairly a little bit safe compared to our neighbors, even at night, but still, because of poor lighting, you still have issues. And also it's a city that is, before COVID, was quite lively, that life goes on well into the night. Somehow residents figure out how to continue with life and economic activity in the night, even in the darkness. So we think that providing light would enhance that characteristic and key strength of Kampala, mainly around transport hubs, entertainment zones, and roadside vending activities for city residents. So to try to address those concerns and also to contribute to economic transformation, certainly the public lighting becomes an essential element. And also we do have a complementary intervention by the national government through the police, the Uganda police, of the CCTV camera network around the city. We had issues to do a bit of security issues and government decided to deploy a network of cameras. So we think lighting would also complement that network and provide enhance that service. Of course, we have a very big population of the city that walks to and from their homes to their workplaces and business. So safety for those pedestrians is really a big issue. Of course, when you look at, as I've mentioned, economic activity during the day, but also extended hours during the night is also a big objective and priority for us. But also to enhance tourism as one of the key activities, economic activities that can provide jobs for the youth. But also to make it inclusive, we also want public lighting to also target the informal settlements where you hardly have any public or private lighting. So we, in terms of deployment, we are not only talking about linear roads, but also off-road into informal settlements. In terms of network coverage, those maps, the intensity you see on those maps can show you where we are today and where we need to go in terms of deployment of lighting, like I said. So currently it's moving from about under 2,000 functional lamps to extend that network to over 30,000 functional lamps. So you can see that that will be really, really a big jump and a big leap in terms of deployment, which also comes with its own challenges. In terms of the areas that we are targeting, like I said, the total estimate is that the entire city to be lit, we probably require between 100 to about 150 lighting points. So we need to break that one down into specific projects that we can manage over time. So the first focus is on some roads which are paved at the moment, but do not have lighting. We do have some secondary roads that are also paved, but do not have lighting, and also some tertiary roads and some community roads. And roughly, we are talking about a length of about 711 kilometers of linear roads to be lit. Then on top of that, you're talking about, we are looking at pedestrian crossings. We are looking at roadside markets and vending places. We also, like I said, in terms of tourism, we're focusing on lighting some key landmarks and also some informal settlements. So for the first intervention of the master plan, we are talking about approximately 23,000 lamps that would need to install. And that also includes a retrofit of the existing network, mainly the one which is on grid, that is currently old and also has much lamps. In terms of implementation, of course, there are a number of challenges that we have to figure out. One is how to deal with the current network that is on grid, where we have the energy distribution company in charge of the distribution network, and then we also have to maintain the lighting that is connected on the grid. So the issue comes on how efficiently can we manage that network. Currently, we manage that network as separate networks. So the distribution company manages the electricity distribution. We manage the lighting installation network. But it's not efficient. And in many cases, when issues occur, it's very difficult for you to attribute where the problem came from, because the quality of the power also is poor. And so that also affects the quality of the lighting network. And we think that to address that issue, probably the best option would be to go into a contract with the current energy distribution company, a service contract, and then they can manage the network that is on grid for public lighting. So that is a discussion we are having. Of course, the second part is how do you manage the expanded network? Like I said, you are moving from about under 2,000 lighting posts to over 30,000, 25 to 30,000 lighting posts. So the question is, how do you efficiently manage that to make sure that the network is sustainable and remains functional over a long time? So the issue is, how do you contract in such a way that you could utilize the contract for maybe a build and operate type of contract, so that the provider of the equipment also maintains it over an agreed time period, vis-a-vis the municipality or the city authority managing the network. So those are the issues that we are discussing with those partners. There's an issue of how do you strike a balance between how much of the network you put on grid and how much of the network do you put off grid, given the cost, the tariffs of the energy supply, given the constraints on the ground on deployment, ease of deployment. So looking at all these aspects to make a decision on how much of the network you can put on grid and how much you can put off grid. In many circumstances, off grid is easier to deploy given the constraints on the ground. So those are some of the issues and decisions that that you practically have to resolve. Of course, we do have some additional investments that would come with that. Like I said, we have a very big population that works within the city, but the pedestrian infrastructure is not the best, and you can't just deploy lighting on that infrastructure. So it also requires a little bit of intervention. And so as part of the package, we also intend to do some improvements on the non-motorized mobility infrastructure. Before then, we can deploy lighting on it as we go along. So that is also part of the project. But also looking at major crossings, zebra crossings, because of the high rate of accidents, you also want to improve lighting so that you can reduce on those fatalities. Of course, we would also have some accompanying measures mainly to strengthen the capacity of the city authority to manage, whether it's to manage the contracts or where the city is responsible to do maintenance, that they have capacity to do maintenance. We did have to resolve a question on whether the public lighting can purely be profitable for the private sector to deploy, whether we do 100% private sector deployment or a mixture of public-private partnerships. But from the assessments we made, it was clear that it would not make business sense, not be profitable for the private sector to meet the entire cost of investment and operations and maintenance, even with the revenues that would, potential revenues that would come with that. And so that means that you would still need a public investment into the public lighting installation, particularly where it also extends into informal settlements and try to address other issues like crime and accidents.
I would just give you 2 more minutes so Olga has enough time for her presentation as well.
Yes, so in terms of financing, currently we are looking at about a financing a requirement of about 77 million euros to do a full deployment for the retrofit, for the extension of the network, like I said, from about 20,000 posts to about 25,000 posts, lighting posts, doing the improvements on the pedestrian routes, and also deploying some lighting into informal settlements and roadside markets. So that's the intervention and the structuring. At the moment, we are still going through all the various approvals and procurements and all that kind of stuff to get the project off the ground. Thank you. That was the presentation. We can have some questions. I can respond to specific questions if there's any.
Yeah, let's. No, thanks first of all, like for really taking the time. I mean, this is a really impressive project. I also looked through your presentation. There were also some pictures of where you can really see the transformative benefits to just that lighting can really have, you know. And if you look at the scale that it's going to be such a transformative process, also for very interesting connecting at what Marcello was presenting, like the kind of finance model that you're going here, right? To say, on the one hand, we're using here more of a PPP model for the solar lights, for the grid connected, and for the energy efficiency. We are going with the energy performance contract and the complexity as well, to have different models for different parts of the investment. And I think also very important what you said at the beginning, it's not, I think, especially the expansion part is not a part that will basically create enough revenues so it can run by itself. I think these are projects that have always some sort of a grant component. I think that's good where when you're just showing the financing plan here, the AFD credit facility, I think that's a good start for Olga as a task team leader of development for the AFD to start her presentation and give us a bit of an idea of how they're looking at this project, and also a bit broader in terms of their portfolio. We will go through some of the questions later, Edison, but thank you for your time at this point already. So just stop sharing your screen so that Olga has the opportunity to start sharing her screen for her presentation. Did you find this? I think that's on the upper part. You see that there's somewhere it says stop sharing. Did you find that, Edison? Yes. Perfect. So then
I think it's fine.
See, Olga, you're ready. Perfect.
Thank you very much, Edison. Thank you very much. Indeed, it's quite a pity we didn't see the very beautiful pictures of the lighting master plan that has been produced at Kampala, and that really show the transformational effect of lighting in different urban environments. It's quite impressive indeed. So let me share now my presentation. I hope you can see it. So yes, I'm part of AFD, task team leader for urban development, and I'm in charge of supporting KCCA through this lighting project that is financed by AFD for the credit part and by European Union for the grant component. And so it comes as finance for a part of the Kampala lighting master plan that has been presented by Edison. So I'm going to just pinpoint some aspects on why AFD has chosen to support this project and as a strategic project for Kampala. Then I will go into more detail on why this project has been analyzed as financially sustainable from a development finance institution perspective. And then finally, I would like to really insist on the importance of the operating phase for such an infrastructure project as public lighting. It has already been a little bit said by the previous presenters, but it is also a very important aspect for DFI institutions. Okay, so without going too much into detail on what has been already said by Edison, but still Kampala is a city that is undergoing a huge transformation due to record high population growth rates. And this puts actually under unprecedented pressure the need to provide infrastructure and the essential urban services, of course, for Kampala city dwellers, but also for the literally millions of commuters that come to Kampala every day from the greater metropolitan region. And as an economically vibrant city that creates a lot of its wealth through the commercial activities, for Kampala, lighting is quite an essential public service. So what is also quite important to consider is that public lighting, why is it a public service? Actually, it's a valid question. It is important in a city that such a service is equally distributed to benefit to all city dwellers, may it be in the center of the city, but also at its periphery and in the more, let's say, modest neighborhoods. The project stems from, of course, a bigger strategic background. Edison has mentioned the National Development Plan, but also Kampala has engaged into a climate change action plan, and lighting has been really identified as a project that will not only benefit to economy and to the overall well-being of city dwellers, but also as a climate compatible and climate beneficial service, partly because it will stimulate the development also of more softer ways of traffic, such as pedestrian and cycling transportation modes. So a project preparation facility has allowed to finance the master plan for lighting, which is actually applicable to all lighting projects in Kampala, not only the one that is financed by AFD and EU, but of course the project is in line with the master plan. And it has also allowed to finance the feasibility studies for the AFD EU financed project. So maybe just in 2 words about the ICLEI facility, because it's, I think, quite interesting to the participants of this workshop. It's a facility that is co-financed by the EU, the Swiss Cooperation, and AFD. It's a fund of 12 million euros, and it is to Sub-Saharan Africa to promote climate planning, first of all, but also then financing feasibility studies that actually prepare the urban infrastructure projects. And it also may be used to finance technical assistance before and during the project. And the objective of ICLEI is to support 20 to 25 cities to launch low carbon and resilient infrastructure projects in Sub-Saharan Africa. So also what has been actually key in considering this lighting project for us is the fact that KCCA as a city administration really convince us, as I may say, with its political will to provide this public service, and with its will to do so on a high level of service. And we are really in line on the objective on distributing and deploying the lighting evenly all through the city, depending on the priorities that have been identified in terms of security needs, economic needs, and so on. Also, what is actually a key favorable aspect is that KCCA has this very structured city administration with technical capacities within a dedicated lighting team, as well as a specific dedicated team for the roadworks that, as you have seen, are also a component of the project in order to really multiply the benefits from lighting for the pedestrian traffic and the pedestrian security. And finally, 2 other aspects that are actually also key success factors for a project like this one is the capacity of KCCA to ensure the beneficiary population's ownership of the project through social engineering that will be conducted by the gender division, and a smooth financial implementation of the project by the treasury and revenue collection divisions. So just very quickly to say that the gender division will also benefit from a specific study conducted by European Union in partnership with the Government of Mayors in Sub-Saharan Africa to really measure and monitor the benefits of street lighting to the feeling of security of city dwellers, and in terms of gender equality in public spaces. I will not go into detail of this, but just to say that AFD and AU are accompanying roughly an investment of 18 to, let's say, 20,000. It will really depend on the capacity of the contractors that will be chosen in this project. But we hope to go up to 20,000 functioning lights in Kampala. And I think what is of interest to our listeners is that the technological choices, as you have understood, have been a lot discussed during the feasibility phase of this project, whether it should be solar or on-grid, and what should be the portion of each technology. Actually, it's really a context-dependent choice that depends on the multiple factors, not only of financial nature, but also of urban nature and of the availability of the grid. And it has really been a whole part of the feasibility study to really fine-tune these proportions and try to map it. So it's really a big part of the work to be able to determine this. But the choice of KCCA has been to favor solar lighting at 75%. And the on-grid solution for a proportion of 25%. In terms of management, the choice has been made for PPPs. For the solar, it's a design, build, and operate contract with a service provider that will have a long-term contract that actually corresponds to the life expectancy of the equipment that will be financed. That is to say, 10 years, with a guarantee on performance, which means that KCCA basically will be managing a performance contract and monitoring it for any failures. And penalties will be applied in the frame of these contracts if the service provider is failing on equipment, or if his operational performance is not satisfactory. It is also going to be this type of contract on the on-grid part of the project. And in the same way, KCCA will be managing the service provider, with the difference that the operational costs, like the electricity costs, basically, will be paid by KCCA, while the operational costs within the solar DBO contract are paid upfront during the investment phase. Okay, so I also wanted to focus a little bit on the technical assistance part, because it's quite also an important aspect for us. The fact that, of course, the TA ensures a smooth implementation, but it's also a way of providing the training, the needed training, essentially for the teams of KCCA to be able to conduct this contract monitoring, the performance contract, because it's something quite specific, And for the lighting team at KCCA, it will be something quite new, because before the lighting was managed in-house by KCCA, so it's quite a shift in the management of lighting in the city. Also, something which is important to consider for this technical assistance is the support that will be given to the tariff collection. So one of the foregoing presenters has mentioned the advertising or the Wi-Fi services that can provide additional revenue during the operational phase. So this project is going to at least try to figure out how this can be effectively managed and how the tariffs can be collected on what part of the poles and how far it may go. But you understand that in each country the regulation is for city finance is specific, and it is not always possible to keep additional revenue for a specific service. It is something that has really to be regarded and is dependent on the context. So just in short, the main actually arguments that show that this project is a bankable one from a DFI perspective. First of all, the lighting projects from the AFD point of view, but also EU, are projects that can have spillover effects in terms of urban investments. So they can be followed by roadworks, they enhance the economic vibrancy, and they may spur higher investments into urban development. Then also this project in particular is actually has a quite wide territorial outreach and also in informal settlements. That has been something important for an equitable development of Kampala. Also, another factor has been the fact that the sustainability of the investments will be ensured through a quite well-programmed and well-thought operation and maintenance phase. So it has been really the result of a common reflection between the DFIs and KCCA on what should be the management mode, and how can we fine-tune the investment costs as a function of then the operating costs that will be generated by the equipment. And so I will show you the really how we managed to optimize these operational costs by financing maybe more costly equipment, integrated solar LED equipment mainly, but which is more sustainable, and that allows to minimize the O&M costs for the city. So I will not go into detail on this one, but just to show you the tremendous numbers of beneficiaries around 1 million of beneficiaries for actually quite low greenhouse gas emissions of the project, and that stay at a constant level, and which has been, of course, of importance to us, but also to the European Union. So here is the last bit of the presentation on the operational phase, and on this reflection that.
One more minute. Yeah.
So, okay, just the last 2 slides. So the choice has been made for design, build, and operate contract for solar, and a build and operate for on-grid. And this is a table that shows the number of staff that is required for each type of management, DBO or design done by KCCA, and the deployment and operation by a private company. And the last one is design and operating by the city, and deployment by the company. And you see the in the total line what it implies in terms of staff at the city level. Here, this slide is just to show that the DBO choice actually implies a plus 30% of costs of O&M that is included into the contract, and that is financed by the DFI, and that is not financed by the public finance during the implementation of the project. And finally, maybe what is actually the most interesting is the fact that the total O&M cost for Kampala city will remain almost the same as it is now before the project, and this mainly thanks to 2 aspects: the solar choice, of course, but also not to be underestimated, the centralized management system. And the last one is a question whether the advertising that will be put on the poles is able to provide a sufficient resource for the reinvestment to replace the batteries after 10 years of operation. It does not concern on-grid, of course. So the feasibility studies, they have shown on a quite conservative estimate that with only 10% of poles in the city center, the advertising provides roughly 25% of the needed funds for reinvestment. So if the revenue from advertising can be earmarked for the reinvestment, it is possible to finance part of the equipment, at least through these additional revenues. Okay. Thank you very much. Open for questions.
Well, thanks so much. The first thing I would just say that the polls that I introduced, so you have the last chance to complete them. So take the time now. We're closing them in 15 seconds, and then I'll just present the results fairly soon. I would maybe just also ask for Edison and Marcello to start their video. Don't have that much time, but 1 or 2 questions. I also saw one of the benefits that Olga was talking about, or the work that AFD is doing on gender, that we had also a question that luckily Edison answered, was how has the plan assisted the city in curbing sexual-related crimes? Are there lessons to be learned? Obviously, the project is still in the operation phase. It's not being implemented, but I think it's been one of the main drivers to actually propose the project. And I think what you should also, take away from Olga's presentation is, I think the importance of all the deliberation, because the first thing she said is it's part of the urban development plan. So it's a priority project. I think that's very key. That's why we in the Government of Mayor also stress the importance of having these plans, climate action plans, and defining priority projects that do have this leverage effect, right? And then the second thing I really took away is the kind of deliberations that I needed. Yeah, so it's not just about presenting a solution, but to really present a solution and telling a story. Why have you chosen this technology over this, or why is it 25% solar? Why is it 75% on-grid? And the same for the different models to see why do you go for a DBO. I think she showed very well the importance to also think is the maintenance, can this be done by the city authority, or is it better to have somebody from the private side to take care of that, and really to deliberate that and suggest, because then you need to come up with a convincing storyline, so to say, also to the financier. I would have in the short amount of time maybe two questions. The first one may be oh no, I have the polls in. So what topics are you most interested in understanding for the development of public lighting projects? So interestingly, the main interest are in economic models, 40%. I hope also just the last two slides that Olga presented, I think was very telling in terms of how can you use advertisement, how much of the reinvestment can this cover, just to flag that this was covered criteria of financiers as a second. I hope we covered this very well with Olga's presentation, the financing models. Yeah, so also Marcello gave an overview, and then we had a very concrete example of one. I think I would also say that we posted a link to the study that we did that has a specific chapter to public lighting that introduces the different finance models, and then the technical solution that we have presented as well. And then what do you think is the biggest challenge for cities in Sub-Saharan Africa to develop and implement the public lighting projects? The most results own financial resources. Yeah, so and that came up with 63%. The next one would be access to external finance, so it's 53%, and then technical capacity within administration. I feel that is very strongly in line with, I think, what we're seeing, that hopefully we were able to present. Now, I think the time might be too short for a discussion now, so I would just first of all thank all of the speakers that contributed. And my last question, so give just one sentence, is what to Olga and Marcello, I would just ask, what is the one main mistake that you see in public lighting projects that proposed to you that really needs to be addressed? So what is kind of like the Marcello?
It was impossible to understand your last sentences. I'm sorry.
The main mistake that you see from public lighting projects that are proposed to you. So the one thing that where you feel, okay, this is always a mistake, and then cities need to get it right. And you only have 2 sentences to answer, so really short answer.
Yeah, maybe to move to too complicated solutions where the investment is limited because there are fixed costs that are huge. So not avoiding this mistake.
And Olga, what would you say?
I would say underestimating the investment costs. It's really important to have a good equipment that has a long lifetime.
Great. And Edison, the last question to you, what was your, I think, main learning through the cooperation you had with the AFD in terms of the public lighting project? So what was your one big takeaway from the cooperation and how the project evolved?
Thank you. I think I would just add to what Olga has said. I think there's a misconception that lighting is a very simple exercise to do in many when you talk to many policymakers, they just think it's, you just get poles and put them on the road and decide, and why are you?
Okay, no, perfect. Then I think
spending so much time trying. I think that is one of the biggest issues to address.
Great. No, then I think that's we are exactly on time. So I would thank you, Edison, Marcello, and Olga. Thank you so much for your contribution. Edison, you've also been answering a couple of questions that came in from other cities. So thank you for that.